Did the Jacksonville Jaguars potentially pull off highway robbery by signing Jabbar Muhammad as an undrafted free agent back in 2025? We're going to talk about it on this episode of Jags Now as the guy continues to make plays. The guy continues to produce. He is making it very hard for the Jaguars to potentially have him not make the roster here for 2026. And quotes from Liam Coen, Anthony Campanile, and John Shipley, just reports from even the joint practice against the New Orleans Saints. Jabbar Muhammad. This is a name that if you guys are not familiar with, you need to know because I think he is going to make this Jaguars roster and be a contributor in the 2026 season. This is Jags Now, presented by our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks. And guys, if you're excited for not only Jabbar Muhammad to see him ball out in this preseason game against the New Orleans Saints coming up here tomorrow, along with the Jaguars just being back on the football field, hit that like button. We greatly appreciate your support. It's 100% free, and it helps us try to grow the channel here at Jags Now. So if you could hit that like button, it would be greatly appreciated. So I'll start kind of from yesterday where Jabbar Muhammad, it was a joint practice between the Saints and the Jaguars, obviously in New Orleans, where the Jaguars will be taking on the Saints this weekend, again, in the preseason week one kind of opener for Jacksonville. And look, there's players making plays on both sides. It felt like the offense for Jacksonville really kind of took on a new level in terms of like execution whenever it got into the red zone portion of the drill. But Jabbar Muhammad was somebody who made a couple of key pass breakups yesterday, including one on Bryce Lance that was tweeted out. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, I highly encourage you to go look at it. Really nice use of the sideline. Again, Bryce Lance, not a small receiver by any means. I think a really talented young player for New Orleans. And Muhammad, really smart, technical, was able to kind of shield him in terms of making a catch, but also using the sideline to his advantage. And he continues to make plays like that, not just in joint practices, obviously, but throughout OTAs, throughout training camp. And he just continues to hear his name being called in positive light. And in case you're more familiar, Liam Coen said you could make the argument he's the most improved player. Let's read a quote from earlier this offseason from Liam Coen on Jabbar Muhammad. I think Jabbar, he's made a ton of plays out there. This is obviously earlier in the offseason. You could argue for most improved for Jabbar really over the last year. A guy that really spent the majority of the time last year on the practice squad, and given show team reps, he's made so many plays out here. I think we're excited about what he's able to do. Really high praise for or from head coach Liam Coen on Jabbar Muhammad. And just to kind of give you a local kind of background on Muhammad. So he played high school football in DeSoto, Texas, and then he went to college at Oklahoma State originally, where he played his first 3 years of college ball before transferring to Washington in 2023, and then going to their rival in Oregon in 2024 before he went as an undrafted free agent in 2025, where he's picked up by the Jaguars. He didn't initially make the spot on the Jaguars roster, and he was waived as part of the final roster cuts. He did re-sign to the practice squad, as kind of Liam Coen mentioned earlier, and then he signed a reserve future contract with Jacksonville on January 12th, 2026. And so far, I mean, he has just came into this offseason with a different kind of attitude and a different kind of purpose in terms of like, hey, I'm not here just to be here. I'm trying to make this roster and contribute to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we'll talk about the Jaguars cornerback room in general, where I do think there is some potential for Muhammad to potentially be somebody that I think can contribute to this roster. He's feisty. He's not afraid to get physical. Somebody that I think, if given the opportunity, he's scrappy. Just an overall a really heck of a ball player that I think for Jacksonville, they're going to want to use him in a variety of different ways. I mean, he's 5'10", 185. Could he potentially give them reps if, one of the guys, in rotation in Anthony Campanile's defense? I certainly do. I certainly think so, just based on what we've seen so far this kind of offseason period. But, yeah, man, he has kind of been turning heads. And Anthony Campanile and also John Shipley had some interesting quotes that I wanted to get into here on today's show. And just overall what I think his kind of role could be for the Jaguars if he does make this roster here in 2026. But we would not be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks. Today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app. Baseball is well underway, along with a ton of other sports that you can cash in with on Prize Picks. Football is right around the corner, guys, so make sure you're locked in with Prize Picks, as it is the best place to win cash while watching sports. You can choose from numerous stat projections on Prize Picks, including passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, points, rebounds, assists, hits, home runs, and strikeouts, and a whole lot more. And the app is really easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. For example, I got a season-long football lineup, a 3-player pick lineup, $10 to win 60. I got the more on Justin Jefferson on his receiving yards. I think he has a bounce-back season. BTJ, I think he is going to surprise some people this season, giving the more on his receiving yards. And also Luther Burden. I have the more on his receiving yards. I think he could be a factor for Chicago this season. New user offer, guys. Play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in bonus lineups if you win that initial first $5 lineup. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. Prize Picks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join in, lock in, and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app now. Link will be in the comments and description. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring this episode. So I want to read a couple more quotes here around Jabbar Muhammad that have kind of caught my attention. This was from Anthony Campanile when he interviewed with Jaguars kind of media members here recently. This is what he had to say on Muhammad. I think he's got a good chip on his shoulder too. He's really taken in all the teaching that Matt, talking about Matt Arugio, is bringing to him. There are some things fundamentally I think he's really gotten better at, and that doesn't happen unless you're totally bought in and you're doing it every day. It's a muscle memory game, and Jabbar, probably as much as anybody on our defense, has developed from where he was at the time last year in camp to where he is now. He's just done a lot of really good things. He's been a really good football player for us. So to your point, another guy who's who's a UDFA who's shown up for us. And when your defensive coordinator takes notice of a former undrafted free agent, I mean, that's something, right? Like, and that's something that you just keep hearing this, right? Like, he's the improvement, the elevated level of play from not only Liam Coen, but also Anthony Campanile. I think it's really telling. John Shipley recently, who covers the Jaguars for SI, he released his kind of winners and losers so far through training camp. No shocker, Jabbar Muhammad made his list as a winner. He had this to say on Muhammad. Jabbar Muhammad is another former undrafted free agent who went from being a stellar offseason story to a likely contributor. He is one of the 5 best cornerbacks on this roster and will likely needed to be leaned on by the defense sooner rather than later, which is quite a rise for a player who spent his entire first year on the practice squad. I think that kind of statement from Shipley, and I trust a lot of what he has to say in terms of what he's seeing from Jaguars, either practices or, joint practice, whatever the case may be, training camp, all this. Muhammad's really proven himself, right? And I think when he says the 5th best corner, right, you have your core 4, and obviously Travis Hunter, you have Monteric Brown, you have Jordan Lewis, and you have Jarian Jones. Those are your 4, I would call them locks to make this roster for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, obviously, you're going to keep more than 4. If Muhammad truly is that 5th guy, I mean, there's a chance that he makes this roster in 2026. He's competing with the likes of guys like Christian Braswell, Devon Marshall, a bunch of other corners that I think could do a lot of different things for Jacksonville. And Muhammad, where, look, if you're looking at the Jaguars cornerback room objectively, right? Travis Hunter will have roles not only on defense but on offense. I do expect him to have a bigger role, as kind of everything's been detailed this offseason, on the cornerback position, but he will still have some snaps at wide receiver, right? Where that'll also allow guys like Jarian Jones and potentially Muhammad to step in rotation. You also have the fact that Jordan Lewis, who I think the Jaguars would like him to be healthy and being that kind of starting nickel corner, there's a chance that, as he gets older, right, like we'll see how his health, I'm knocking on wood for him. I'm not saying that I'm wishing this upon Jordan Lewis, but you do have to kind of plan for the future if you're Jacksonville in terms of this cornerback room. Muhammad, if he can step up and prove that he can be a valuable contributor, there is a chance that the kind of future of this room is obviously, Travis Hunter being that kind of cornerback 1, but Monteric Brown, Jarian Jones, and Muhammad really being that kind of next trio of corners that you look to try to obviously have your scheme dependent on in terms of if you're Jacksonville, right? Because Jordan Lewis, he's not getting any younger. Travis Hunter, I think at their heart, Jacksonville was always going to look at him as this kind of two-way, just dynamic player. And that creates an opening of Monteric Brown, who you just extended, Jarian Jones, who I think if he continues this level of play, will get an extension from Jacksonville. Jabbar Muhammad will have a role on this team, probably initially on special teams, but as a guy that I still think could also contribute at this cornerback room, and you just hear all these, positive reviews on Jabbar Muhammad, and it does make you wonder: did the Jaguars get away with highway robbery, with potentially having a cornerback as an undrafted free agent that they have long term, that they can bank on with some of their younger talent that they're trying to exude in Jacksonville? I think, to me, based on everything I've heard, he's been one of the brightest stories and throughout this training camp period, throughout hopefully this preseason period. I can't wait to see him play against the New Orleans Saints to see what he can do. But I'm excited to see what Jabbar Muhammad can bring the Jacksonville Jaguars here in 2026. Before we get out of here, guys, just want to ask you guys your thoughts. John Shipley's pretty confident in it. I'm pretty confident in it. What say you? Will Jabbar Muhammad make the Jaguars roster here in 2026? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know down below in the comments section. And that's going to conclude this episode of Jags Now, presented by our wonderful friends at PrizePicks. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you're still here, consider hitting that like button. We've done something right for you to stay all the way to the end of this video. We greatly appreciate all the support. And truthfully, guys, I know it hasn't been a lot of graphic-heavy shows as of late here on the channel, but I've been continuing to try to put out content for you guys, and you guys have continued to show the support. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. So continue to do so. It greatly helps us out in trying to grow this thing that we've got here at Jags Now. And until next time, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Hit that subscribe button, and peace out.